This conference will now be recorded.
There were a couple of things I did want to talk about, and we've got, and one, for starters, let's just take a quick look at the minutes. These minutes are extensive.
Yes.
And if, for
I'm sorry?
housekeeping purposes, if you want to get your mics close to you, because if you're speaking away from the mic, like if you can't hear yourself through that speaker, it's difficult for the recording.
Okay.
So when they do the
I
notes.
just didn't want to get a feedback thing going on.
No, you should be fine, but I was just saying, you almost, so if you want to hear yourself or make sure it's recorded,
Oh, I
you
can
need to be able to
I can
hear.
when I'm talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a problem.
Okay.
If anything, sometimes my voice is strong and I do create feedbacks. But no, I think we'll be okay. It is on the medical talking. Anyone have any issues with the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes of the September 9th meeting.
Do I have a second?
Yes. Second.
Okay, we got Warren Davies moved to approve the minutes from, what was the date on that? September 9th? And Angela has seconded it. All in favor? Aye. Minutes are approved. So we're good there. The final budget, there's not much to talk about there unless you want to bring something up. I know you've all received it. I know that you've received it in your water bill, if there's anything there that you're troubled with. There's nothing that you have for us, so.
No,
Chris, okay, we're good. That's about it with that. It's done. It's a done deal. I think the next October meeting will be the next final vote on that. Is that correct? Or is that already, the final vote's already been done?
it's done out.
Okay, so you'll be getting your bill for that probably in the first week in November when that comes in the county. Discussion of proposals. I do not have the proposals with me, but
I've got copies of the proposals, and I feel we need to take all 4 proposals and and start pretty much from scratch and decide what we want to do. One of them, well, 3 of them were from as far back as February 4th, January, and 1 in September. The one in September did not at all address the roots.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't address the roots and take care of the roots, we might as well just not even do it.
Well, go ahead, continue.
And I think that looking at the expertise of the guy directly across from me, being Mr. Shoemaker, if we have to redo we have to do a work on the path. And then we also have to take out the roots. A couple things first on the roots. According to the contract with the tree maintenance and arborist services, the contractor is supposed to have an arborist
so he can participate.
Sure.
within the contract. Do you know if this is, if Mainscapes or Anchor have this?
I'm sure they do. We could ask them. Call JT on the speakerphone.
Oh, there's a speaker.
Join our meeting.
Okay. 281.
Hello?
JT,
Hey, Chris.
it's Joe.
Oh, Joe, hey, Joe.
Well, that's close.
You're live.
You're live. Everybody hears you. We just started. We didn't really discuss too much. We approved the minutes for the last month. And Warren was speaking about the discussion to repair Stoneybrook running path. And I know I have ideas about it, but right now it's Warren's baby. And Warren, if you want to continue being my guest.
Who is the gateway contract with as far as the tree maintenance and arbor services? The contract was in January of 2018.
I think it's Anchor. if I
I
remember
think it's
correctly.
Anchor too,
Yeah.
but does Mainscapes have any control or any contact with that you're aware of, Chris?
No, we don't, we haven't been using them. Typically, we have the paving contractor. If he's doing the paving, they'll do the root side of it, the root barrier,
Who will do the root side?
the paving contractor. You know, cut it out, do the,
Well,
put in a root barrier, but again, the root barriers are, 2 to 3 year protection. It starts going through, so it's not a
I
total
think
fix.
what probably where Warren's heading is that we've had discussions here and as well as at the board meeting at Stoneybrook. We know that we gotta take trees down. And the question is recognizing which trees, and probably the most obvious ones are ones that are close, giving us a problem, and also block our lights. So if they meet those two criteria, they're gone. They gotta go.
Yeah, I'm not, I have not looked at the lights. The lights, of course, to me is a different situation when we're talking about the path. But I just want to make sure that when we move forward, we're getting the right people to do the right thing, because the last contract we had 5 years ago did not address roots or anything, but I'm sure they had to cut the roots a little bit to work on the path. But cutting them at the path don't do any good, because those roots are going to regrow and go back under. So if you go with the arborist who's going to cut them somewhere between 3 and 4 feet from the tree, the secondary roots, not the main root, but and then you put in a barrier that will give you a little longer lasting contact than just, we're 5 years out and we've got to redo it, redo parts of it. So that's one thing I think we need to address is the arborist. The second thing would be, I really don't feel we need to pave the entire path.
I agree, and I was heading there myself.
And that's what we were talking before you come in. Between the two intersections of Stoneybrook, there's 2 spots, which would amount to maybe 20, 25 feet total. And the rest of the patch is fine. And the next intersection is a little bit, has another one, but it gets a little worse as you go along. And those spots that don't need to be totally repaved, if they were just sealed, after they fix the others and just seal the whole thing, I think that would suffice in doing that. Because when you look at all these different things we have, the macadam should last a long time. And when you're redoing a whole bunch of space like we're going to have to, in less than 5 years, because some of those spots have been cracked up for some time, and they become a danger, especially those people that get up at night or early morning and walk their dogs. You see a lot of people running at that time, and if they can't see that, they're going to go head over heels, tripping over some of that stuff. So, and I think we need to somehow move along with this. We've been talking about it. I had the impression at the last board meeting, they didn't seem overly concerned about getting involved. They think it's strictly a gateway process. But I know we're going to have to get them involved as we go along. But I think to wait for them to make a decision, they only meet once a month, we meet once a month, and every month you wait is just twice as long.
No question.
Can I just real quick, what was?
Can I just hold it for a second? I lost JT. I want to see if I can get him back
Oh,
on.
that's not hard to do.
You there, JT? Let me make you louder, because I can barely hear you right now. Go ahead.
If you want, you can give him the code to go to meeting if he wants to log in.
Yeah, that'd be easy.
All right, what is it?
871
871,
421.
you there?
Hold on 1 second.
Oh, there you go.
I have the number to call back at.
All right, well, you're on right now. We're not doing anything to cut you off, okay? No one's even near the device. I don't know what's going on with that.
Okay.
All right, so you can hear all right now?
Yeah, I can hear, but like I said, I've been cut off twice,
Yeah.
and I just called back the number where what called me, and it just automatically reconnects.
Okay, well, I might have hung up on you, not realizing because I couldn't hear you. But in any case, we're good right now.
Okay.
We're good to go. We're back to, Warren just brought up something that I agree with.
I heard it all.
Okay, and that has to do with, I don't think we should be repaving that whole thing. And I think we should be recommending to our board, and as a board member, this is for your benefit, that the board should be looking at the option of just patching the areas that need to be fixed, and then talking to Anchor to both, and supposedly Anchor, if I didn't hear Chris's response before, they do have an arborist on staff?
They should, it's in the contract that they have one, so that's kind of hard to follow up on. And I've got a list of other armorists that we could get to. I think working with armorists, get well, you know what I mean.
Yes, I do.
Working with them to get those trees cut back properly. And you won't lose any trees unless you want to cut them out.
There's something you want to remove.
Yeah, there are definitely some that need to be cut out. But doing it with a professional and then putting in the barriers the way they're supposed to be put in at those spots, I think that's going to benefit us in the long run. If we want to get 4 or 5 extra years before they start going through it, it's still going to be 10, 15 years hopefully before we have to do anything else.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
And go ahead, JT.
Well, I just want to make one statement, and I'm not sure, I mean, this is really for the rest of the advisory since Warren and yourself are there, but we have a board member that's completely against the board getting involved.
Right.
They feel that it is the responsibility of Gateway Services to come through, hire an engineer, get all the studies done, do all the legwork to tell us what our association needs for our walkways.
Well, understand this, whatever services that we do request, we will pay for it.
That's right.
It's not on 001, it's on 004, and we tried to explain it to that individual, and he didn't seem to care. But in any case, I will agree that we're going to ask Chris, if you don't mind, going forward for the record. We'd like to have, first of all, we're overdue for having our trees trimmed. I know we pay $800 and some odd to Harbor, to Anchor on a monthly basis, and we're due for getting trimmings. There are trees that are well under the minimum height.
The contract says they would come out on call.
Exactly, which is what I want to do.
That call to trim a lot of the trees.
So is that a call that, since the contracts with you, should come through you?
Yeah, I'll get Brian and Elle to take care of that, and I'll copy you on that request.
That
to
would
get
be
them
great.
to get Anchor
I'd
up.
be more than happy to meet them and look at the sites and help
And
you be involved.
I think going back to JT's comment about board members not wanting to be involved, it's all Gateway, that's fine. If that's the position we're going to take, I think we as an advisory committee need to take that step and work with Gateway to get that stuff moving along.
Fine, I agree.
And then when the whole thing's going to come down, one of my questions here that I had for Chris, do we contact, or can we contact Stephen Bloom to determine how much money we have available to do this? And I think, and maybe that might be premature, that maybe we need to put the contract or RFPs out like we did with the storage lot, see what the cost is going to be, and then determine what direction we need to go and how we're going to get.
Well, if you're talking about trimming, you're cutting trees
Oh, no,
down.
I'm not talking Trump, I'm
Okay.
talking the pathway. I haven't changed something.
No, well, the pathway, I agree, that needs to be revisited, but one of the problems was that we needed to decide, and I was hoping that the board would decide, and they have basically walked away from this.
They did.
They complained about it, they have basically walked away from it, don't want responsibility. And their comment is, well, we're not experts on paving, we should, when I first got on the board, there was a lot of things I didn't know about either, but you learn, you take the time to learn and research it. Apparently, they don't feel like. Well, there was a request to do this right, so I don't know if engineer is the right word, but we'd like to have an arborist come out and take a look at it.
Well, I think we need that, and I think we need that, and my question would be, do we need to put together, what would your recommendation be, Chris? One RFP to cover the pathway and include the aspects of a arborist coming out and working on the trees and doing the trees as part of that one contract, or should we have two contracts, one to do the trees and then one to do the path? What would your recommendation, or how would Gateway want to go with that?
I would have to check because sometimes it's better to have the arborist working under the paving contractor. And in some cases, you have the arborist come out and tell them you want it prepped for this. And, here's this where the sidewalk's going to be. And
well, the board came to a conclusion, and I agree with in this particular case, that we want to have more control over the trim. We already have a contractual relationship with the Anchor. Anchor should be coming out to trim those trees anyway, which is badly needed. And I don't see why we can't just work directly with this. The opinion was, and once again, I agree with it, let's get the trees handled, and then we will come back, and then in the interim, be doing the search for a paver or somebody to do the job. And I think there was indecision. We tried to ask our board which way they wanted to go, to patch it, to do, there was like 3 different plans there, and the money was all over the place. So I wanted this committee to approve, and we can make a motion to approve it, to recommend both the Gateway and also notify our board that we believe that just all we need is to patch the walkway. And I believe we're in agreement on that.
I don't even think we really need a motion. I think just your report to the board. But if you want a motion, that's fine too, but I wouldn't see a need.
Well, I'd like it to be more than just me sitting here and you sitting here talking. You guys only 4 of us here. We've got JT here. JT, you okay with that? Are you done? He's done.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
All right. So I'll make the motion. I usually don't do this, but I'll make the motion that we recommend the Gateway Advisory Committee to just approve the repairs to the sidewalk in the site, so therefore patching the damaged areas. After we solve the problem with the trees, and we will get an arborist in. Does that sound okay?
I'll second it.
So Virginia has seconded it. All in favor? All right. JT? Aye, everybody's in agreement, so 5-0 unanimous. We recommend, and we will get the, so Chris, you'll contact Anchor.
Right.
And like I said, I'll make myself available to meet with them, and we'll hopefully get this thing moving. It'll be easier in the dry season anyway.
Chris, who from your staff works with the landscaping now? Who would be working with the trees?
it would be Glenn.
Glenn, okay.
And when you say get an arborist, you're saying to tell you what trees to trim or
Yeah.
some that are
Make
dying?
a recommendation of what needs to be done to avoid this happening again.
Contractually, they're supposed to have one
Yeah.
on staff and be available to do all the different things we talk. I read their contract
Yeah,
today.
I agree with that.
So we,
Yes.
all first. So I think that maybe if Glenn and the arborist, myself, and if Joe wants to come along or anyone else, it's a long walk up down that path. But there are some trees that we need to, say they gotta come out. Then some other trees that just need to be trimmed, and the roots need to go back. I think with an arborist, we can get the real definite information about where it has to go, because according to the document, different things I've read, they can go as close as 3 foot from the tree, the roots.
You want me to see,
Not the main,
see if
not the
Glenn's
main
in the
root,
office? I'll bring him in.
Sure.
not the main root, so, yeah.
I do want to say also for the record, and Chris knows this already, Margaret and I did have a meeting with Glenn and Brian, and they're looking to do less. They want to do less in our community. And I said that at the meeting, but I don't think they fully appreciated where I'm coming from. They want to shift budgets around, and they want to throw more stuff back at Stoneybrook.
I think these gentlemen are working with two different groups. The Pelican group and our group. And when they work with the Pelican group, and I talked to Bob Gephardt last week, I mean, they do everything. I mean, they don't have hardly anything coming over here. And Bob said, well, it's easy for us because we're all seniors. For a pond committee they put together, they had 25 volunteers. We couldn't get 25 volunteers for a whole bunch of stuff because, again, we have a younger community. And all these people are working, they got going different directions and trying to get things done. So I think that's one of the things. And some of the stuff that we've talked about, I would argue violently about doing some of that stuff. And
You're talking about putt-putts and
yeah, and I think I've not worked with Brian, worked with Glenn a couple different times on some things that we had go on, and he's pretty knowledgeable and stuff. That I think if we're going to spend the money to do the trees, it's going to be best to have a good expert, so that if something goes bananas, we can say we didn't rely on someone who really had not done that.
Do you know when the last time we had the trees done?
I'm sorry?
The last time they did the trees, was that when the path was put in?
like you say, do the trees, we trim the trees every year.
Yeah.
In fact, we're supposed to be doing it twice a year.
Yeah, that was one of my
But
questions.
as far as to do the, cut the roots, that was done at the time
It was.
of the paving.
Now,
Now,
that was done right at
What
the
year?
end. It was at the end to get there. There was nothing in the proposal that said they were gonna cut roots. But anybody that watched them do it, they had to cut the roots. It was going under there. But again, the roots will grow right back. That's why they move them as far back as they can.
And what
We
year
have
was,
some trees you can't even move them back. One right there by Neil's house and Ronnie's house. It's like 4 or 5 feet from the road, or from the path. And the
What
roots,
year
you
was
just
it?
see the roots coming right out at
what year was the pathway installed?
2015. That was the last time.
the new installation.
The new.
Yeah, that's
What was there before?
an old pathway.
Yeah.
That was
Made out of the similar,
same thing,
Asphalt?
except it was
They
even worse.
round up the old path and made a new path.
Essentially, the old path was so underbuilt, it was paper thin and breaking up.
And
so would you consider the 2015 job was more of like a full overlay, just going over the top of it?
Yeah.
How much was that budgeted for? What?
That was-
69,000.
Yeah, it turned out to be a $69,000 project.
$69,735.45.
Wow. Okay.
That's I got a copy of all
My
that.
other question is too with Anchor and our $800 a month that we do on the contract,
Uh-huh.
and you're not trimming.
Stand right in the middle, put your hands on top of your head. Look at everybody else.
Glenn and Brian are here to answer any of your questions about arborist services. And the one thing that is, on a monthly basis, Stoneybrook pays
Okay, good.
Well over
anchor
$100.
tree $800.
Well over.
Yeah, trim trees.
So
That's permanent.
Well, we have trees like a good deal is pulling one tree out of 1,000, but anyway, and so they want to get their trees trimmed.
Okay.
And I assume that's.
Yeah, that's what it should have been done already, but you know,
Did
you need to get that.
Find
done.
out the date when they were trimmed last. Some
Oh.
type of documentation. They've got to have record. If they're charging us $800 a
No,
month.
I wouldn't have a clue.
Then they would.
I don't remember either.
Anchor's got
Contract,
to have it.
contract only, we have to call them to come out. They don't make.
I'm saying previously,
Well,
somebody has to
it's
have
been a while.
on a calendar like when they
Yeah.
did it. I'd like to know when they did it.
Yeah.
So how do I find out?
I'll go take a look real quick while you're talking to arborist and see if it's in the file.
All right, so I'll update you. We had our discussion a few weeks ago and sat down with Margaret. And I did let them know that Gateway's learning, leaning or would like to do less in Stony Brook. But, look at these things, no. And the chance right now of taking control of the road is pretty slim. So we got to work something out. I have talked to the board and the board of Stony Brook, is under the impression that you guys have to do these things. Am I right? Is that quote?
Yes, yes, we want nothing to do with it.
Here's where all the information we discussed,
Yeah.
and talking to Tony, our attorney. The roads, yes. We're basically responsible from the sidewalk to the street and that strip of grass in between it and the 8 cul-de-sacs at the other end of it, which is basically track A.
Nothing-
Track B, we're not. And we've been doing track B for a long time, apparently, maintaining track B.
Track B consists of, okay, track A consists of everything from the sidewalk to the street, 3-foot wide strip. You guys, the track B is everything behind the sidewalk. All the trees, all the bushes, everything, the grass, all of that is track B. Track A is only along the roadway within the first 3 feet between the sidewalk and the curb. So 3 foot.
So just to clarify this, I want to say for the record, that when you-
Just too bad, just for 13,240.
Okay. Just not on with it.
when you say we take care of it, I interpret that to mean that you oversee the work that gets done. Because essentially, you're not taking care of it or paying for it, we are, through the 004 budget. So it isn't like money's coming out of Gateway.
No.
And we also do, now keep in mind, and this is a big distinction between us and Pelican, and I know we talked about it, and you guys said you understand the distinction, is that we do pay the same thing that everybody else pays to the 001 budget, which includes staff and everything that normally would be whatever. Now, one thing I'm a little bit unclear about, do you go into other communities at all?
No.
Not at all?
We stopped.
Other than the lakes and the drainage and the pipes and plumbing for that?
Stormwater.
Yeah.
Basically, we handle all the stormwater throughout everything. The only sidewalks we maintain is up and down Gateway and Griffin. That is ours over in West Lincoln Commerce. We were going into Timber Ridge, come to find out we shouldn't have been, because it was turned over to them a certain section that we've been mowing and maintaining for 15 years.
When you say we've been doing
I'm
it,
talking Mainscape, CDD.
okay, through the 001 budget.
Correct. That got stopped. Actually, it's my own subdivision, so my rates went up so big. So I started looking at other areas. Stoneybrook's another prime example. We basically Mainscape, or CDDs, maintain a lot of stuff into there. I think we talked about a track we're even doing behind houses and mowing. That's, we talked about, you said, well, I was due to stormwater. Well, that's fine, but I got stormwater in other areas like Hampton. I didn't go to Hampton and do anything in Hampton other than maintain their ponds, which we have to do, or the stormwater.
I do not know of any area within the fence or the gate that you're paying Mainscape to cut in Stony Brook. I was under the impression that everything they do, we are paying them for out of the 004 budget. Am I wrong?
According to the contract, the landscaping contract, the last portion of it addresses Stoneybrook and addresses all the streets and stuff that's gonna be in there. And the one area that Joe and I disagree on, but it's in the contract, is that area between Ivory Stone and Stone Valley Loop, that back there, which is owned by Stoneybrook. Correct. But according to the contract, that section is also cut by Mainscapes, by your contract. So that's a problem too. I think we need to address.
The area that you're looking at, if I'm
Yeah.
mistaken.
To the right.
And what were the questions, for me for arborist? Well, this went from arborist questions to.
Yeah, I'm gonna write to that. We're supposed to, once or twice a year, get our trees trimmed. We have an obligation to keep them a certain number of feet off the sidewalk and above the road.
Yeah, 15 feet above the road
Yeah,
and 10 foot above your bike paths or.
I think we actually agreed to keep it at 12, because if I remember correctly, the law might be 14, but I think we agreed to do 12. And this goes back a lot of years, so
Okay.
I don't know if that's still in effect or
I
not.
think that the problem is nothing says they have to cut it twice a year.
No, because the contract says one time a year hardwood's cut. One time a year.
But trees can be trimmed anytime we ask them to be
A hard-
trimmed by contract.
But a hardwood is considered an oak tree or something like that. You can't just go in and.
Well, I understand that, but the palm trees, and other kinds of stuff through there.
Yeah.
Contractually, it just said, if we have problems, they look bad, we make a phone call, you make a phone call, and they come out and trim them. They don't come out every other month or whatever. They do stuff like
Yeah,
that.
you have your contracted
Yeah.
amount of times that they will come out, but after that, it's, if you deem it ugly or want it trimmed, it's gonna be an extra charge. It's not gonna be for free, of course, so. You know,
Not the fee we're paying monthly.
well,
So is the
well,
con-
we have to go with the contract says. Contract says twice a year, it's twice a year.
No,
I can't do any more than
it just
that.
says, I looked that up. I got a copy of the contract here too. It just says that they will be called when needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, they.
And I will go back, and you're right, but the understanding was we're probably gonna need to get it done twice a year. So we would cut them and we'll call them and they would, and to come out a second time. Just to maintain the required height of both the sidewalks and the street. Yes, what you get?
I was just bringing back, I just have one of their invoices and tree maintenance and arborist services, $691.66 a month, $8,299.92 a year.
Well, 690, so it's under 700.
Yeah, the fees, I got the fees in here somewhere. Yeah. Contract.
In any case, we need an arborist, and the reason for the arborist, we want to fix the paved sidewalk.
Okay,
And where the roots are intruding into the sidewalk, we're looking for recommendations from an arborist. And this was recommended by our board to do this,
excellent.
to avoid,
So what would you like from us to run interference, get you an arborist, have them come out there and meet, or?
According, well, contract, read the contract. Contract says that the contractor, and I'm assuming this is Anchor, has to have an arborist working with them or for them to address the tree problems. And if he or she is qualified to work with us to determine where the roots can be cut on the oak trees, so we can move those roots back away from the macadam path. That would be, that's what we would want.
Can I just tell you a suggestion? Unless you remove that oak tree,
I'm sorry?
unless you remove that oak tree,
it's gonna grow back.
if you're gonna go back no matter what you do. I don't care if
Year
you're,
or 2 years.
you can saw cut it, you can do
That's
root
true.
bearers, you can do whatever you want, it's gonna come back unless you take that tree totally out.
We understand there are trees that have to be taken down. We do understand that. There's no question.
We've got 30 trees along that pathway that are interfering or growing underneath our.
Sure.
Yeah.
I have about 150 on Gateway Boulevard, but nobody lets me take them out.
In reading material from the different tree companies and stuff, they acknowledge some of what you're saying, but you can delay it by cutting the roots back
You can.
and putting in a
Root beer.
metal barrier.
Yeah, you wouldn't put metal in Florida, you use put plastic. and
Metal,
well,
It's a.
All these companies, they're national companies, so they're just gonna say.
Here's
My
the thing.
degrees in horticulture and plant science, to give you a little background, I've been in this town for 20 years, I've dealt with trees and plants in this town for 20 years. I know it works, I know it doesn't work. The trees that are there, I can give you a good idea how much you can cut your roots back.
Yeah.
Just by how close the tree is to the sidewalk. If it's within 3 feet, you're not gonna do any trimming. You'll remove the tree because it will die.
Yeah.
If it's further than 5 feet away and you only have tap leader roots,
Yeah.
surface roots that are this big, you can cut all those.
Yeah.
That's not gonna hurt the main tap root.
The arborist manual says up to 2 inches.
Yeah.
And you can take them back
2
to
inches.
somewhere between 3 and 4 feet from the trunk of the tree. It's just that you just gotta be careful as you get close, because if you
Correct.
cut the main root, you might as well take the tree out.
Exactly, and the problem with our soil that we have here in Gateway is a lot of the roots, we don't get a straight tap root, right?
Yeah.
Because the ground's so hard, we got rock, right, so sometimes it'll just turn and shoot sideways. So you may end up hitting a tap root. And no arborist can tell you if it's a tap root or not. Nobody can tell you unless they dig up the tree and look at it and go, okay, yeah, every single root, this is the tap root.
Yeah.
So.
Look at X-ray stuff, you look underneath.
I wish. I wish I had.
If I had that, I wouldn't be sitting here.
I wish I had that information. I'd be in business for myself. I'd be making millions of dollars. So.
Well, let me just say this, we like to get this moving, because everybody and all
Wish I could
sides.
set up a meeting with Anchor to come out, meet with everybody.
That'd be
Well,
great.
not everybody,
It'd be my pleasure.
Yeah, well, ourselves maybe, and I get 1 or 2 board members there. JT, I don't know if you're interested, I know you're busy, but I can probably get Chris Capillo to come out. You there? Right now, it's hard to hear you. Is it how you're speaking into the phone or
We
something?
also have a quorum out there. Yeah,
Try that again.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's much better.
I was on a headset because I got my housekeeper here.
Yeah, I got you.
I'm working. And she's asking me. So one of the things that, and I heard everything, the only thing I wanted to ask about, and I know Joe made a great point on it, is the guy said, and I forgot his name, I apologize, the gentleman talking.
Most of the talking's been done by, we got Brian and
Glenn.
Glenn. But Glenn is the one that right now is talking about having expertise in that.
So he was talking about the services that Gateway Services is responsible for, and anything past the sidewalk is on Stoneybrook. But then you made a good point that, we're not paying this out of the 001, we're paying this out of the 004.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, is this something that I'm gonna be needing to bring to the board?
It is a concern. In the course of this next year, and that's why I mentioned about the election being important, but in the course of this next year, they're looking to shift expenses out of the 004 fund, I guess, and put it on the community directly. I think that's going to be a discussion that will have to happen after the budget is established, approved and everything. Maybe early next year, because remember, the 004 budget has to be in by May, so you don't have a whole lot of time to, deal with this.
Is this something that we're gonna be budgeting and removing maybe the 004 on large accounts and increasing the HOA fee?
No. No.
Well, somebody's gonna take care of it.
Somebody's going to have to take care of it. I think that's something that will be decided in future discussions to actually break it down.
I think the biggest change would come perhaps with the grass cutting and trimming and stuff, because what I'm hearing is that perhaps our pathway is not part of Gateway right away.
They're saying that the pathway meanders, so therefore it may be meandering over the east.
I think meanders is not a big problem, but if there's a line before you get to the path that says it's ours, then that could be a problem that way too. But I think we need to look at that. The maps and stuff I've looked from LIPA, a lot of and those lines aren't exactly, they're right, but the way they draw them, it's kind of hard to tell. But some of them do go all the way out to that sidewalk.
That's what we
Do we
did.
have a proper, and I might be saying this wrong, but do we have a proper GSI report that shows where everything, who owns what owns what easements are there, what?
Essentially, I believe they did go, one of you went down, both of you went down to the county and got out some records.
We pulled it held it out of our own database. And
Okay.
we went into LIPA, you can see what parcels are owned by who. And that's how you figure it out. And then we pieced it all together, and I think Margaret has it.
Yeah, she does have it.
We highlighted.
Well, our lakes are showing that they're still owned by US Homes. Has that ever been corrected?
That was one of my points when we had the discussion, that their county is not always correct. I do agree with that.
They're behind it. I think the Stoneybrook Master Association has like about 30 parcels of land all over Stoneybrook.
Yeah, why this is certainly not legally binding, or there's no written record of this. I will tell you, my memory is that we came to an understanding years ago, and I think it was Bill Knight was here at the time, that Jesse was also here at the time. That's another name blast in the past. And that we knew there were parcels that we were taking care of and they were taking care of. And there were slivers of property. As you walked across the street to the gatehouse, you were in and out of Gateway property and Stoneybrook property. And we came to an understanding, okay, you guys take care of this and we'll take care of that. And that's what we basically have done. Now, when you start to talk about property lines that don't correspond to the sidewalks or only go to the edge of the sidewalk, except that one of the sidewalks isn't a straight line, it meanders, it complicates matters.
Well, that's why if you remember when we talked about it last meeting, we agreed that GSCDD would take the responsibility from the edge of the sidewalk or back of curb to the edge of either path. So the meandering of the larger side on that path that was added
Is it
here
an issue
later.
then?
No.
That's fine.
We're just talking beyond the
We were
sidewalk.
talking about on the back side of the path, the berms, the trees, all that stuff on either side of the road, on the back side of the path, not from the path to the street.
Now, when you say we will take care of, and I think I know where you're going with that, we are already paying for the contractor to do that. And what is the extra burden that's being placed upon you right now to do that?
Every time your homeowner calls and they want something done to a bush or a tree, which is weekly, and you come to find out I shouldn't be maintaining it to begin with.
Tell them.
Your residents, I said, now on you call your HOA. Because technically, we're not supposed to be maintaining that stuff anyway. So now we're over there project managing what your HOA should be doing.
You're talking shrubbery now.
I'm talking
Hanging in grass, and the old floor.
I'm not talking out of the budget. I'm talking.
I agree.
Keep track of what hours are being used and what's not. I mean, are people paying?
Well, that was one of the issues, JT, and I believe that, and you can correct
Can
me.
we
if
get
you
back to
disagree.
asking about the arborist?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, you guys.
He's always on overtime.
Nah, 3:30.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that. Let Chris know, he'll contact us.
I'll be glad tomorrow when I come into the office, I'll be glad to let everybody know that I'll send Tommy over an anchor, an email saying we want to meet, and then I'll set up a tentative date and I'll reach out to both of you to set up a tentative. My question to you is, do you think it would be good to have Shannon Rogarden there, your HOA president, or your HOA, your camp?
Future camp. I don't think that's necessary. I will tell you this, Shannon has been told by our president not to refer calls to you. I would like to think those calls have subsided. Would that be correct?
Yes, they have. That's
Okay.
why I was wondering what happened, because they went from like 3-4 calls a week to like lately none. Which-
Yeah, we stopped that.
Okay.
Now, there
thank you.
may be some people out there that still think they're gonna call you. Just tell them, back to the HOA, we'll handle
They
that.
don't accept, they don't accept that.
And, you know, and to be honest with you, also in addition to that, we were gonna probably consider going back to having our entire community landscaped by one company. We were maintaining, as I had mentioned at that
Yeah,
meeting,
yes.
Mainscape, because we wanted to make sure that this new company was doing the job right. And-
Right.
And we'll probably come back to one. Now, if I remember correctly, I think, Chris, not too long ago, you mentioned that subject may be going out to bid again. Is that correct?
It'll be scheduled, I think, to bid again next year.
It's in here.
Early in the year?
Your landscape, maybe.
Yeah.
We're getting ready to redo that one down the year.
Well, we could still pull that section out of the contract.
Yeah, we can. That's the case, and that'd be fine. But I'm saying, you know, in the past, we wanted to keep it together because the issue sometimes when you have two different companies landscaping, you got that kind of thing.
Well, that's what I said.
Yeah.
So that's why we use Mainscapes for everything. And then eventually.
One contractor smart to have.
Yeah, and so we may go with all this new contract. We'll let you know. Because that contract for the area that is along the road, we'll probably break it down to two parts and then still be passing that through Gateway. It won't really get you involved, but nevertheless, we do that for tax purposes. Anything, JT, on that subject? Because you want to let these guys out?
No,
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Maybe it's for Glenn, if you're in charge of your trees, the contract that we have, and Chris just went to look up the date of the last time they were trimmed. I heard you guys going back and forth on like oak trees and palm trees. So is there a certain date, if once or twice a year the palms get cut, or once or twice a year the oak trees get cut? What is the routine?
Since I've just been here for the last, few months working on the irrigation and landscaping in Gateway and in Stoneybrook and starting to understand the contract, my understanding is that it's done on one time a year and the palms are usually trimmed right before hurricane season, so we can keep down the debris for y'all. And the hardwoods are trimmed one time a year, and we usually do that when we hear the most complaints out of the residents, hanging branches, et cetera.
No, we're there.
And for instance, I just had Mainscapes in Stoneybrook week before last, trimming all the bushes and all the low hanging branches on the bike path. So, you guys,
Well, I don't know if the palm trees were ever trimmed, because I saw it on that.
they were, and they're, and I have, right now I have Mainscapes going throughout the whole property, trimming all of the sables. I mean, all of the cabbage palms. So if they haven't gotten to yours yet, you're on the schedule, they'll get to you. It's just right now, they're on property doing it.
With your contract with Mainscapes, our contract we have with the state for the villas, they'll trim any tree, the lawnmower people, if they can stand on the ground and cut the tree.
Our contract says anything under 10 foot.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
Anything over 10 foot is a charge.
Yeah, we have short people. They, they can reach pretty good.
My suggestion would be at that point, you would have your camp manager walk out with a 10-foot stick and start measuring limbs.
Yeah.
And when they find the ones they want trimmed, they can mark them and call me and go, hey, we got all these ones that need to be trimmed. Like I said,
We do that down Gateway.
Yeah, we usually actually let the landscaper, anchor, whoever, be determining of that. And, you know, it's pretty obvious to them when they're driving.
they're the pros, they know it needs to be trimmed, they know it can be trimmed successfully and not hurt the tree, longevity. We also have to understand one thing at Gateway, this property's been here for, how long Stoneybrook?
Stoneybrook since '04.
Okay, so that's like 16, 17 years, right?
16, yeah, 17 they start building it.
Most trees and plants have a life expectancy, y'all. So they only live to be look real good for a certain amount of years. After that, they're just nothing. You guys are at life expectancy on almost all your plant material in Stoneybrook going up and down the boulevard. And minus what we've replaced over the years and that new hedge I just had installed for you over there. Remember to go that one? Okay, so it's called life expectancy of plants. Trees have them too. When these trees, or we get diseases, or we have these inclement weather that we've had last winter. Did we have a winter last winter, y'all? 90+ days every single day. We didn't have a winter. So a lot of our plant material has been fooled around here for the last year. It's doing some crazy things. So we're gonna start noticing different things. Plants blooming when they're not, seeding when they're not, flowering when they're not, growing when they're not. So
Pine trees, we're losing almost all of that.
Yeah,
Is that the pine bark beetle?
yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, that's why
There's nothing we can do, just write them off.
you write them off. There's nothing you can do. We've treated them. I had for instance, that loop that you're talking about. You had 12 dead pines in there.
Yeah.
I had
Well,
them.
most of these pine trees were original. They weren't
Yeah.
planted. They were just.
Correct. Yeah, there were slash ponds here that they left. So I had those removed, because they were an endangerment to all the house inspector. So we do our due diligence in there, and we actually spend a lot of time in Stoneybrook. I spend a lot of time in Stoneybrook. You may not see me, but I'm in there walking. Sometimes I park on the outside of the property and just walk on the inside of the fence or berm or.
So like when you did the pine trees, is that like documented somewhere where the HOA board's notified that that job was done? Who gets the information?
There's a PO.
Yeah.
They were good for you.
Thank you.
So, but I'll tell you what, the day may come, I may ask one of you guys or both of you to come down to an actual or HOA board meeting if that's capable, possible.
They do good work. Don't bring them
Yeah,
down
but
here.
here's the problem.
Analyze them.
We go down there and tell them what you're telling us, and they don't know, believe us. They think they know what they're talking about, usually they don't.
Well, we have everybody in this neighborhood.
We-
tells us
we-
that.
That's
Everybody knows everything.
That's what we do around here.
We know nothing. Everybody else
Like,
knows
So when we come down to actually start talking about shifting responsibilities and costs, though, that's gonna be a topic.
Here's the issue with that.
But that's a different topic than what
We were gonna wait.
discussing today.
We're waiting.
Okay, yes, it is.
It is. When the new board comes in, and we'll sit down and go over that. The funding issue, that'd be in Tony and Chris's hands, but we're just trying to get out of Stoneybrook, because I don't go in any other development and do what we're doing in Stoneybrook.
No, but we do better.
But here's what I'm saying, pay your own HOA, and get out of the, whatever budget here.
Can't do it unless we own the road, then we own the property.
But then we just maintain down the roads, and CDD will handle that
And
without
right away,
additional stuff.
that all comes as part of the,
Correct.
when they turned everything over.
Because I got another development, I need to get rid of streetlights, that's a whole other topic.
Anyways, like I said, tomorrow, I will do my due diligence. I will come in, I will get a hold of Tommy from Anchor Tree Service. I will do my best to set up an appointment. I'll reach out to both of you
Okay.
and see if we can set up a time for an appointment.
Pelican has some of the same stuff, except their committees handle everything and don't involve you folks. Unless it's absolutely necessary. We've been a little bit different, and we know we need to change some things as time goes on. So, one question, littorals.
I don't want to hear about
I
it.
want to hear about,
You exceeded your questions.
are any of the lakes in Stoneybrook on that list to get littorals?
No, nobody's complaining.
Okay.
Please don't.
Oh, okay, move on.
I got
Thank you.
two developments that get all my money right now anyway for the Torals.
Thank you.
That's a nasty word to me. I don't want to hear
Oh,
that.
you got that.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Have a good one.
Thanks, Glenn.
Good luck, Chris.
And the only thing I'd mention is right now that contract, the $691 a month, that 8,600 a
Yeah,
year.
that's probably where the 8 came from.
Well, it's for them to do that trimming like he described. So if you want to come in and start removing trees and roots and all that, better get a checkbook out.
Oh, yeah, we know that. We don't anticipate that's not gonna have a cost.
Right.
The issue for us, and that's one of our issues with our board, is where it comes from.
Right.
And they think, we got loads of money over here to spend on it, so,
And it's not gonna change.
yeah,
It's gonna be,
not with that board. In any case,
The date that Chris was trying to find out when they did the last training, that would have been out of the 04.
Yeah.
But we still don't have the date. Because they would have gotten some type of a,
what screwed everything up, to be honest, was this whole COVID and everything being shut down. And I'm wondering if they even have been out here at all this year. I don't know. Yeah,
they've been out a little bit, but they don't hit all the trees. They just trim out some of the stuff. Our trees around our place, they're driving me nuts right now. I'm trying to save enough money in some of the other accounts to get them trimmed out again, because there's a lot of pods, a lot of other stuff in them that just make them ugly.
mhm.
And a lot of people, I cut my own out, and some other people, but it's just hard and it's expensive. We called them out to do that. That's $4,000. Just to do those, just do the palm trees. Plus it's $5,000 just to do about half of the oak trees.
And you don't have any
you're talking
extra
about the
for
bill is separate.
Huh?
You're talking about the bill is separate.
The villas, yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. Yes, we have our own budget,
Right.
our own landscapers.
Well, I could be wrong, but I've seen it brought up
I
before,
know, I
that the
know.
palm trees were not trimmed before hurricane season. And then somebody said, through the grapevine, that they weren't going to be trimmed until after hurricane season. So that's why I still want to know, when were they ever done last?
Ours were trimmed before hurricane season, and we take them to about
I
10
don't
and
think
2.
ours were. That's
No,
my
no, they
question.
weren't, no.
Because I see them all the time, and that's my guess is, I'm guessing 9 months ago. Over here. Nobody's giving me a date yet.
Actually, the office should know. They should know, because they come
Shannon, can you give
in.
me that date?
What's that? I think she should be able to go back and look at that, yeah.
Okay, so I'm more concerned about, start with one thing, on palms, and then we're gonna give the arborist for the folks.
And I gotta tell you, another future expense coming up, and this is gonna be on the HOA, is all these pine trees that are dying. I mean, just drive around, drive down Gateway and look back at Stoneybrook, you see all the dead palm tree tops sticking up.
They don't clean them out. And I just,
It's.
I worry more about our trees around the bill.
Yeah, I know. All right, so hopefully we'll get the ball rolling on that with the,
That'd be good.
Can I-
I think,
It's gonna be easy to get people to do the path,
Okay.
the macadam aspect of
I
it.
agree.
There's all kinds of people,
I
but
agree.
getting the trees done is important. Get 5 extra years.
Well, part of the issue was which came first and should it be all handled by the paver? And I prefer to use who we are using right now for the trimming and taking those trees out.
Well, if they can do it, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's the whole, if they can't do it, then there's other companies out there that specialize in those kinds of.
Well, we asked the new landscaping company to give us price on removing some trees. They were like,
Well, I'd rather wait until we talk to Anchor.
Oh, I agree. I'm just gonna
After
tell the
that.
story that they were gonna charge twice as much as Anchor was.
Ours,
Yeah.
the state.
They cut some, the community, where we have dead palm trees,
Oh,
dead fir trees or, evergreens behind some of the houses. We asked to remove them down. They were giving us some outrageous numbers, this new company. It was ridiculous.
yeah. So we don't, if in the villas, if your palm tree dies from a disease, we cut it down. We'll
Yeah.
cut it at the ground. But if you want to just take it out, then it's your cost, and it's about, anywhere from $200 to $300.
Yeah, no, that's not what I'm talking about, and that's palm tree. I'm more concerned about the slash pines that are dying. They're all gonna die. There's not gonna be another one.
So,
All right.
can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
When, you guys meet with the arborist, I like to go, depending on what the date and the time is, I'd like to be there to be educated on this, because all I have to go on is, I believe Shannon gave me a list of all the documentation on 4x4 and 8x8, 122 feet. I don't know what you have as a map for the arborist to use as a guideline on going,
I've got,
here's where we've got a pavement problem, we want this tree out, or we need this one. What is the map for them to go on, or are they gonna make a map?
There is, you're not aware of this, there was a map generated by a company that came out to give us a proposal for doing the whole sidewalk as well as the
These are,
other repairs.
these are some of the stuff. Because I did a
And they
survey of the
did-
whole thing.
They did map on that map the actual locations of where the sidewalk problems are.
It's not this one, is it?
No, this is,
This,
it's on a picture.
we've got,
Oh, okay.
It's on a picture.
I've got twice as
And
many
on
pictures.
there,
There
it
it
did-
is?
Huh?
I have some more.
Yeah, I got it. I should print another copy of this.
Oh, wow. So somebody worked really hard at this. It needs to be like in their hands.
That was me.
Okay.
no,
That was me. I was a sweaty guy walking
Right,
around.
Between this one and this one, I want to make sure.
Well, the other one is kind of hard to see. These are,
Of course.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that doesn't identify on the map for you to be able to go and locate.
Can I get a copy of that now?
I don't have it. It should be in the office.
Okay.
which meant, oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, that one actually, it's excellent, because this is where they put it out, the RFP for doing paving, and this company came in. This is the company that was talking about putting the chemical on some kind of treatment on the road.
Rejuvenation.
Yeah,
Oh, I
rejuvenation.
got this one.
We talked about that at the last board meeting, I think, or committee meeting.
Yeah.
But that particular individual spent a lot of time walking up and down our sidewalk, really did.
So
Yeah,
Sharon would have a
they
copy of that?
The report was good, yeah.
Yeah, and in any case,
Cool.
we should be able to locate where we need to do rather simply.
Okay.
And that would help in getting a quote from whoever's gonna do it, but I think we should be considering that company, I really do, to do the sidewalk.
But the rejuvenation?
Well, they won't rejuvenate it, but they also do paving. They
Oh,
do-
yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay, that's
That's
some
a company out of Orlando?
Yeah, but I think they have all.
Yeah.
I thought they wouldn't rejuvenate the parking lot.
No, they won't because it's been sealed. The
Right.
stuff
I
won't
thought
work
they
on
would
that.
do the walk.
No,
No.
no, what we're doing is, the issue was repaving it or patching.
Okay.
And our recommendation is going to be to patch.
Okay.
Can I step in real quick?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Forget something?
Yep.
Since we've been talking about landscaping and everything, I know I requested, I don't know, I've never been on before, but can we get an RFP for, the place of bid? And include landscape, include who we currently use for our HOA and another landscaper, and maybe see if we can get a better deal?
You thought,
Or combine land care, so we all have them together in the same community.
I think we can, but you know something? I think at this point in time, we're probably going to need to do that through our own offices in the HOA. And it just simply because I think if we're going to go with one and we already are using land care, I know this board is going to be leaning that way. That's why I always ask, how are they doing? Are you happy with them? I'm going to tell you right now, GT, we look pretty good when you come into our community and you're driving down the road.
Yes,
But not many people realize that's Mainscape's doing that. And you gotta,
well, Manscaped did a good job before.
well, that's
They're getting
another
better.
thing.
They're
They get better. Well, they asked me, how come we lost it? And I got a phone call one time. And I said, well, I can go saying that, but, and I said, well, how can we get it back? And I said, well, I was you. I'd have shot at the other company. That's how you're gonna get it back. So they have been doing a better job. I agree. But I just want to point out, I'm sure there's a lot of people happy with this new landscaping company because they think they're the ones that are doing the sidewalk areas and along the roads. It's not, it's Mainscape. In any case, yeah, that's something we could talk about another time, but I think that's gonna have to be handled out of our own office.
Okay.
I understand this, and I think Chris would agree. They really want to stop coming into Stoneybrook to the extent that they do. Unfortunately, Lennar and the powers to be from Gateway at that time worked a deal that the road was gonna be turned over to them. Unbeknownst to everybody, Warren was our first president. He didn't know it. I know I didn't know it. And that whole understanding and agreement was done that morning of turnover.
So we need to blame Ward?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
fine,
Yeah.
whatever. I've been blamed by bigger.
Hey, also Ward, good job on, I don't know if I made a comment at our board meeting, but thanks for looking into that paver and the sidewalk and really going into detail. I appreciate that.
And I turned around and I did thank him for that meeting, and then Chet jumped all over it right after that. And I couldn't get a word in, and it was ridiculous, but that's another problem.
They only gave you 3 minutes.
Oh, you took 15.
Yeah, well, I know, but they only gave you.
In any case, all right, let's move on.
At least I get 5 minutes, might speak here at Gateway.
That's true. Discussion of traffic law enforcement jurisdiction for Stoneybrook. Now, there's been postings recently in Facebook. People are trying to blame the security company. Why aren't they doing something about the speeding and whatnot? And it gets down to the old issue again. As long as we don't own the roads, there's not much we can do. We can tow parked cars. We can't give out speeding tickets, and we can't give out parking tickets. As bizarre as it sounds, we can't tow cars who are parked in the street. We have not done it.
Let's get the sheriff in.
And we gotta get the sheriff in, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, this particular board, as I understand it, is not anxious to do that.
It's not up to the board. It's a Gateway
Well,
service.
one of the comments we had at a board meeting, and this is the logic that they had, was they almost are stating, let's not enforce street parking. But then when someone actually started complaining about it, they said, okay, well then we can enforce, like they contradict themselves.
That was, I think they were telling that person what they wanted to hear. Okay?
Well, and Chad shouldn't be, contradicting himself and stating one thing, saying that, no, we're not gonna be enforcing it. And then we'll call the board and we'll do something, call the office and we'll do something about it. You can't give, it's that.
I know. Well, remember, that's why we gave the warnings out in the past. That was the one thing we could do, and they'll let the people know they really were parking illegally. Of course, we had some in our community who claimed that you couldn't stop parking, and that's just flagrantly not true.
I personally could care less about the parking. The parking is a bugaloo that can only be solved by Stoneybrook, HOA taking over the roads. That's not gonna happen.
I agree.
We need to get the sheriff in. And the only way we can get the sheriff in by statute is under section 316.006, 3B, which says the CDD can file with the county commissioners requesting that the sheriff take over traffic jurisdiction within Stoneybrook. Once that's done, then the sheriff can come in and enforce the county traffic laws in Stoneybrook. All the traffic laws, not just parking, not just speeding, but all the traffic laws. We have problems with traffic, and we can't afford to put a law enforcement in there 24/7. But we can put them in there from 6 in the morning until 10, because they work 4-hour shifts, and 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock, protect our kids going to and from bus stops. People are not stopping at crosswalks. They're not stopping for school buses. Kids have to walk out onto the street because cars are blocking the sidewalks. Those are the kind of violations they need to be working on. Now, can we get it? Sure we can get it, but it's got to come through the CDD. In 2006.
I'll say this, Warren, we did look into this. We looked into this years ago. In fact, the agreement we have with the CDD and with the county basically does give us the right to bring in the cops.
This is the documentation we need from them to do it. And any conversations don't count,
You
Joe.
need to talk to Tony. There are documents and agreements that were signed.
Well, Tony knows about this
Uh-huh.
because I've been researching this and I put it aside while they were trying to determine if they could turn the roads over to Stoneybrook.
Mhm.
In 2006, when Stoneybrook HOA owned the roadways, they had permission, they had a letter from the county commissioners to the sheriff to go ahead and do that and all these different roads. There's another attorney general's opinion that allows the CDD, if they own the roadways, to get this. Any special district can get it by their thing. It comes down to, all we need to do is go to the CDD and say, we need to do this. And I don't want to get into some of the stuff because it's been, I mean, kind of frustrating because of some things that's been going on. But we need to do that. That's the only way we're going to get it. The board can't do anything about it.
I'm going to disagree.
The board can't do anything about it, Joe.
I'm going to tell
Give me
you
a
right
law.
now.
Give me a law that says they can do it.
They already have come a new agreement with the county. There were legal letters that went out to the county, and they legal letters that went out to Lee County Sheriff's Office. And everyone is in agreement with the understanding and the documentation that has been signed, and you can run this by Margaret too.
Well, I don't believe all that with Margaret
Okay,
either.
well, that's why, because this was brought up by Ed Tinkle. And some of our board members who had talked to him, thinking we couldn't. And then when they looked into it, and there is documentation that clearly says that we can bring in, we have a sheriff's
Oh, you
office.
can't, Joe.
But we have to pay them. That's.
Well, of course you do.
But we can do it. I'm gonna
I
disagree.
mean, that's part of the law, is that you have to show how you're going to pay for them to come in and do that.
And the documentation exists.
No, it don't, Joe. If it exists, then someone is not producing it, because I have filed enough public records requests through this office and through Tony's office and through the sheriff's office. The only one to come back and gave me anything was the sheriff's office, who gave me the letter and the documentation and the worksheets that were used to determine this back in 2006.
Oh, yeah, we got stuff with more reason.
Well, show it, Joe.
Okay, I don't have it on you.
Well, email it to me, because I've been looking for this for a long time.
Okay, and the individual streets are named in that letter.
Yes, that's what's listed right in here.
And the same thing on the document that we have.
Now,
I think it's
you
part
don't
of
have
the
it,
2012 package.
you don't have it. If someone else has it, I can file a lawsuit saying they're hiding stuff from us. I mean, that's how bad it's gotten. I've been looking at this stuff for 6 months. And I've had this stuff, been filing public record requests, and not getting responses back from people for some reason. And my feeling is that they're snowballing us and just trying to waylay us and not get the stuff done.
I'm not-
And unless we can get something from the CDD to the county to the sheriff, and then the sheriff allowed to do that, then we can get them into Stoneybrook and we would pay for them.
How about you and I, maybe try to meet with Margaret?
I don't want to meet with Margaret.
Okay.
She's not part of this board. She's part of the CDD, and she votes on it. She doesn't like what we're doing, that she can do it.
But she
Now,
also is a board member.
Huh?
And she's the, secretary of our board and has been for many years.
Yeah.
And she has the documentation.
If she has it, then it should be down here, and Joe should have a copy of it.
I think
And
that is down
that should
here
be, if she's
somewhere.
hiding the stuff, then why hasn't it come out?
I don't think she's hiding anything.
Well, I haven't been able to get it. She's a member of this board of supervisors, and if she has material relevant to a public records request, she is supposed to acknowledge that and provide that copy. But there's nothing in these files here. And that goes back to April, and the gal before April, I can't think of her name, and the people now. I was going round and round on some stuff here with them because they don't have it.
So the last thing you checked on that we do have is the things from 2006.
Well, the information I got about the 2006 stuff come from the Lee County Sheriff's Office.
Didn't even get that.
And they have, no, I've not heard anything back from here. I sent that copy to Tony. And I know, I don't know, I think it got out to some of the board members, because I did get an email from Ed Tinkle, who was a little upset because we are in this particular situation, because the sheriff has been out there patrolling in there. And the arrest made could come back as illegal arrest, because no jurisdiction was established after the roads went from Stoneybrook HOA to the CDD.
JT, you still there? JT,
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
do you remember some of the discussion about this issue? Because this is something that also Ed Tinkle got, what's his name, the guy that used to have that little blog site. He got that involved in it. And the letter came from the county about some of those issues that said essentially what I'm saying is true. That the
What's
documentation.
the letters with Steve?
Yeah, it's one
Or
of
going
them.
back further?
No, Steve's one of them. Letter from Steve's one of them. There's stuff that goes back to 2012, and I may have it myself, that actually names all the roads and what we can and can't do. And we do have.
What we need to do- I mean, like what you stated, Warren, yourself, get as many parties as we can, sit down and try to find out exactly the sheet of paper that Warren is looking for. Because if he is putting a public request and he's not getting it, I mean, we need to find it. And I do know there's stuff out there, but I mean, there's so many pieces of paper for our traffic and for our roads.
Mhm.
I can't keep track of what's what anymore. I might used to have a folder just for our road.
Yeah, mine's about 2 inches thick.
Yeah.
And it goes all the way back to the state statute and then also the local ordinances concerning this subject that make reference to state statute.
I mean, the thing is without stepping on Florida Sunshine Law,
Mhm.
can we discuss this as an HOA thing? So myself as a board member, yourself as a resident,
Mhm.
Warren's self as a resident, I mean, are we allowed to talk about this outside of this meeting? Because this is something that really involves our community.
I agree. I think we can give it a shot. I know that it definitely goes on in other communities. Otherwise, in Pelican, they couldn't do the things that they do. Because they basically, I don't know how much the master board does there. You know, the PPAC seems to do a lot of the.
Pelican uses Fort Myers Police Department, and they have the same kind of.
No, we're talking the general, not just the police. But yeah.
well,
Just-
well, they use
So what
Fort
we'll
Myers
do
Police.
is, we need to figure this out for ourselves,
Yeah.
for our board.
Fort Myers Police when it comes.
And so let's just, I mean, so is this a topic of discussion of the advisory committee?
Yeah, right now it is, because of the fact that the board, the HOA board, has kind of not taken action. And we wanted to come to a conclusion to bring this up, that essentially they do have to do something. They just can't ignore the situation. They can't have cars speeding down the road and not be doing something. And we've done it in years past, and people have tried to fight it, and we're told, no, you're wrong, they can do it. And we can't pay the police or Lee County Sheriff's Office to come in and hand out parking tickets and speeding tickets. Now, in the past, most of the sheriffs have not wanted to do parking tickets. That was beneath them. But the fact of the matter is, we do have one sheriff that's willing to do it. People weren't happy, so they tried to fight it. They found out, yeah, it's legit. It is what it is.
And that one sheriff did go to court.
Yep.
He did, I mean, their attorney, and I know this for a fact, their attorney, Lee County Sheriff's attorney, did call him in, and they did discuss what actions were taking place in Stoneybrook, and they found it to be legal.
That's correct. That's why I knew that.
So
Based on-
if we
based on what-
don't have the correct information, if we don't have what we should have had, trust me, their legal department would have found it, and it would have been thrown out.
In any case, we do have, I'm very confident that we do have the right to do this. The issue is, I don't think it's our position to do it. I think it's still the HOA board's position to take action. And I have seen things now in the Facebook site, in our section for Stoneybrook, that people are really getting up in arms. They're complaining. Things are getting a little bit out of hand, and apparently you got a couple of kids in there doing racing right down Pebblebrook. Never mind on Gateway or on 82, they're actually racing down Pebblebrook at nighttime. And, you know, we gotta put the kibosh on that, we really do. So with that said, anything else? And I'll try to look at that paperwork.
Well, I've been asking for that paper for a long time, Joe. You keep talking about it, but I never see it.
I thought that you had gotten it.
No, only thing I've gotten is from the people that should have copies of it. And if the sheriff is operating under this original approval back in 2006, if someone had read it, they'd find out it says that Stoneybrook or Stoneybrook HOA is saying that they are currently operating and controlling it. And our HOA does not.
And I will say that I can remember the document because it was Joe Targe's signature. It was just before I became president. In any case, so I'm gonna call that a done subject for now. We'll resolve that, talk about it further. Anybody, committee members have any requests at this time? There's no audience, so.
No.
Warren,
No, I'm not.
you good?
No.
All right, Chris, you got anything for us? Anything that we should know?
No, nothing that you haven't already heard.
Okay.
So get the arborists and the tree people and get that rolling.
All righty. I'm still, you know, I can understand why Brian and Glenn don't want to get involved with the bushes. That makes sense to me. I get it. But to me, as far as where the grass cutters go, seems like that's a moot point. It's irrelevant because we're paying for it anyway. It's nothing on them, nothing on staff. It's all the same contract.
Yeah, I got involved one time with a homeowner over there and they were complaining about the landscaping on the berm behind their house. And that was, Gateway property. And she said, well, you need this, this and that. And I said, we don't landscape our berm for your residential pleasure.
Mhm.
We're just doing this. So the fact you want this and that, no, we aren't doing it.
Yeah, that's it. It's something.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the
it's
way.
not your property.
That's kind of
And
what
in
I
fact,
said.
even tell a common element for the community. She go to the board and request something, She
I
has.
told her, I said, you want all those plants, put them on your property.
Yeah. Oh, she had plants on her property?
No, she got to ask her, she wanted all these plantings. I said, well, then put it on your own property. We're not putting it on the berm.
No, she had that right to do that. All right, I'm gonna look for a motion.
No, wait, no, we have to.
Oh, next meeting date, November 4th. How come it's not the second Wednesday? Even today's not the second Wednesday. And Chris,
Sure.
the projected date for the next meeting is November 4th, but that's the first Wednesday, not the second. When did we start doing first
I
Wednesdays?
don't understand why that's on the 4th, why it would be there.
The next week is
Set-
Veterans
set
Day.
the-
Are they closed?
Maybe it is Veterans Day. Yeah, November 11th will be Veterans Day. Yeah, that's true. All right, that's probably it then. All right, so November 4th, first Wednesday. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
You hear that,
Yeah.
JT?
Yeah.
All right, so with that established, we're okay with that. Then we have a motion from Virginia. Who was the second?
I'll second.
Second from Angela to, all in favor?
Right?
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
We got
Take care.
Thank you.